Oh, hi, teens. Tug Johnson here. I'm sure you will all remember 2022, when I was outed by Mayor Juanita Horsebath. At the time, I decided to take my golden handshake and purchase a travel trailer. Yes, after spending an entire career as head lifeguard in Santa Cruz Adjacent, it was finally time to throw in the yellow trunks. And so, I jumped on the internets that very same day, to find the next hole in the wall where I could insert myself. At the top of my search results was Hatteras Island Adjacent. It seemed like the perfect place for me, especially when I read that the local girls were mostly virgins. Well, teens, I guess that's why I should always remember to wear my readers when working at the computer, because now that I'm here, I've discovered that they're actually Virginians. And, even worse, most of the girls look like buoys. The surfing here really isn't that remarkable either. In Santa Cruz Adjacent, COVID eventually wiped out most of the longboarders and the morbidly obese shortboarders, but here they seem to be thriving. And the promise that I was going to get slotted during every session is complete malarkey. So far, it's happened only once, and only at the most crowded bathhouse. And while it was no secret back in Santa Cruz Adjacent that I like to go both ways, here it's nothing but lefts. And that's my backside, where I'm just not as comfortable. Even more, the lifeguards are notorious. The locals call them the hardcore. And they ain't kidding. You definitely don't want to stray outside the buoys around here. And especially after dark. And then there's the whole Lighthouse Beach closure. Recent storms have revealed a major cover-up. And I'm not talking about the tuck-friendly swimsuits display in the junior lifeguards department at the local dollar store. No, we're talking about the unearthing of Cold War-era Navy and Coast Guard latrines. It's government waste on a massive scale. Of course, all of my biggest critics will say that while I have dedicated my entire career to lifeguarding, all of my gripes can be attributed to a dislike for authority. To be specific, it was an early position as a motorcycle cop in Malibu Adjacent. In my defense, the deck was stacked against me from the start. And that sergeant was always in my business. Then, in 1986, after a routine pat-down, television producer, K.Y. Chermick, purchased the rights to my story. Yes, teens, that's when chaps got the green light. Unfortunately, while I thought my contract also came with a leading male role, me and my blonde baton were quickly written out of the script. At the time, they expressed that my disco roller skating skills just weren't up to snuff. That, and the female lead said my gun always went off too soon. And so, I found myself out on my rear. Even despite pleas from my understudy, the original cop from the Village People, who said I knew how to move my hips just as good as anyone he'd ever followed. Yes, teens, I guess things could always be worse. And Hatteras Island Adjacent really isn't such a bad place overall. In fact, I even decided to pull my roller skates out of storage last week. Hatteras Island Adjacent Skate Park is da bomb, and I like to spend most of my mornings here, playing with my diction. Even more, as I write from the dinette window of my travel trailer, I'm watching a couple of groundskeepers as they groom the Pee-wee pickleball court. The locals may call them the Idiot Twins, but at least there's a career path for these two former junior lifeguard achievers. In fact, upon reports of a rogue gopher, I was able to watch them seek out the hole. So remember, teens, not everything you read on the internets is true. And remember, the next time you play with your pickle and balls, that the walls are thin and that your parents are probably in the next room. Until next time, this is Tug Johnson saying, ride the big one.